And I talk about it a lot is like our word is life or death. And that's the thing that we're either building self-belief or we're reinforcing self-doubt. Give ourselves a word and we keep it, we build that self-belief and confidence. But every single time we break it, we're just reinforcing self-doubt.
A lot of these guys, late teenagers, early 20s, they got their whole life ahead of them. They want like the quick fix, instant gratification now. But if you can figure out who you are early on, be confident in who you are and where you're going, and then just chip away at it slowly but surely every single day, like the fruits of that labor, it's like exponential growth. And we are live. Jack, how are you, brother?
Doing good, Robert. Appreciate you having me here.
Hey, man, I appreciate you chatting with me. So we're going to dive into a little bit of everything, but I want to kind of get the backstory first because I feel like we're going to be talking some psychological things, self-improvement things, and I feel like I have better context on my guests when I know where they're coming from when we dive into the headspace. So give me some backstory on you, man. What made you interested in pursuing self-improvement in the first place?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just first and foremost want to thank you for leading the way and having these type of conversations that I don't think a lot of people get a chance to have, especially as men. Something that I've seen and I struggled with was growing up, I always thought, all right, like I'm a man, I got to do things myself and I got to figure it out alone. And I think the way you use your platform and you put a voice out there to show that like it's okay to feel like you still have room for improvement and you can do things better and it's okay to lean on each other. That's powerful. So appreciate you doing that. And just for your audience, I'm going to leave Robert a 5-star review after this. So would encourage you guys to go do the same. And just like to move with leadership. And when you see a good thing, you got to encourage it. So yeah, kind of how it started for me with the self-improvement is like a lot of guys, I was in a place where I was showing up. My life looked good on paper. I had a good job, started making 6 figures, was working for a good corporate company, was in and out of the gym in decent shape. But I knew like I was coming up super short and I just didn't have the motivation and I didn't have the consistency or the discipline to actually start maxing out my full potential. And it was when I kind of had that real honest conversation with myself. Like, are you letting other people dictate the life that you're living in the capacity that you're putting on your own life? Or are you designing it? Are you deciding to be an author or a victim? And when I had that conversation with myself, that's kind of when I started to change things. And I started looking to places other than the majority of people around me and just the people I was with during my day-to-day life to actually find what I was capable of. And so that's kind of when the journey started for me. That was early in my corporate career. 2018, I was working as a software engineer for a company known as Fidelity Investments and had studied computer science undergrad. I was a Division I walk-on, played football, but was kind of just a headbanger. Like hard work and effort got me there. And that's kind of what got me to the place I was in my corporate career. But yeah, when I was in the corporate career, I looked around at the people around me and I could just tell, similar to myself, the only thing that mattered was money and getting a check. And went and worked for Amazon Web Services, AWS. And I was like, all right, I made it. I'm working for a big 4 tech company. But when I got there, I realized I was just a number and it was so competitive. Nobody even cared about them. Nobody cared about anything but their own success. Like there was no sense of team. And I realized I either stayed there at Amazon and just continued to work for that next promotion and, collect some stock units and be a number in their system, or I actually decide to sit down and ask, like, what do I actually want with my life? And start to look at men who have already done what I want to do, who were in a position who were in my current position, who started there, and let them pave the way rather than just the people who were around me telling me what I could and couldn't do.
It's kind of weird, man. Like when I graduated, I got a job making good money right out of college as well in the corporate world. I was train master with the railroad and I was in management. And it's like society is weird, man. Like the way it's structured for young men, especially, like it's this standard status quo. You go to school, you get a good job, you go to the career fairs, you get in corporate America, and then you just become a number. You punch the clock, you punch out, you check the box, and it's like everybody around you seems to be like, this is what you're supposed to do. Congratulations, kudos, you're making six figures in your early 20s. And it was weird, man. I looked at the people at the very top of the ladder and they weren't happy either. It's like, well, I'm just going to get out while I'm ahead, because if they're not happy and they're at the top of the heap, then it seems like a downward spiral to me. It sounds like the same thing with you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. They had the title and they had the money, but it's like you're making $1 million a year, but you're still overweight. Like how healthy and happy could you actually be? And eventually, the things that we feel like are sustaining us, like all they're actually doing is masking the other insecurities and voids we have in our life. So, yeah, what I did though was I did start looking to, entrepreneurs who did seem to be thriving in every single area of life. It's like guys who had strong relationships with God. Their bodies were in great shape. They had good mental health. They were very aware of their emotions and thoughts, in control. And then, they were crushing it in their career. They were doing something they were passionate about, and they had strong families. And that's just when I shifted my perspective out of like what I was seeing day to day to a few couple of guys who actually inspired me and showed me like you don't have to live like everybody else is.
What were some of those guys? That they have like podcast platforms or big
Yeah,
social
the
programs?
biggest one was Ed Mylett,
Yeah.
just because what he had to say, actually, his self improvement, and when I started diving deep into self improvement and self awareness, that was in 2020, and I had moved out from Boston. I'm from Massachusetts originally, to San Diego to go work for Amazon. So I moved out, knew nobody, and I think I read 12 books in 2020 and 24 books in 2021. I wasn't much of a reader before that, but I just became obsessed, especially with the process of like understanding myself and basically uprooting every emotion that I had and understanding and getting to the root cause and the root trigger of it. Became fascinated with that in the self growth space, or the self help space. And so, yeah, that brought me to Ed. Um, in just some of the mindset shifts he had, some of the things he talked about around fear, resonated with me because I was in that first phase of like stepping out and stepping away from ordinary. So he was one of those guys. And E.T., the hip hop preacher, he's more of a motivational guy, but there's something just about like that relentlessness and like that dog mentality where like you know where you want to head and nothing is going to stop you. That's always resonated with me. I was blessed to have really good parents, and my dad always ingrained it in me that I was capable of achieving whatever I set my mind to. And I kind of saw that in college, especially with I wanted to play in the NFL, but I just wasn't cut out for it. Genetic wise, I would have had to spend way more time doing what I did in terms of practice to get to that place, and I didn't do it. But yeah, even just walking on, and I ended up fracturing my back a couple times, and like my fourth and fifth back fractures in college. And I was also doing ROTC with the Air Force at that time. And I had the commander of Air Force basically say, you got to give up your scholarship with us if you want to continue playing ball. And you can't be part of the program anymore if you want to keep playing football. So it's scholarship in Air Force or walk on football. And basically mocked me and was like, you're not even going to play. And basically told him like, screw you. Take the money. I don't need this. I'm going to pursue the dream. And didn't even know if I was going to get back on the field with those being my fourth and fifth fractures, but just ended up getting out there, doing reps, and started on special teams. And yeah, that just showed me that I could do a lot more than I thought I was capable of. And but even more so, it just frame my mindset that like what you want to achieve, it may not happen in the time frame that you're looking for, but as long as you just pursue it relentlessly, to bring all of this back to ET and just kind of his stream of thought that he always preaches is like outworking people and showing up every day. And that was kind of the first thing that just taught me like that relentlessness and perseverance. And you can live whatever life you want if you're intentional about it.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be more voices around playing the long game. Like for me, Gary Vaynerchuk really resonated with me. I was starting to dive into his stuff when I started the business, and he was like, "Look, you know, you might be 87 years old, but if you've got a passion for something, start there. And then, you might have 10, 20 years left, just keep rocking it. And that will result in what you're looking for. And like a lot of these guys, late teenagers, early 20s, they got their whole life ahead of them. They want like the quick fix, instant gratification now. But if you can figure out who you are early on, be confident in who you are and where you're going, and then just chip away at it slowly but surely every single day, like the fruits of that labor, they're pretty profound, man. It's like exponential growth. You just have to make sure you're not jumping from one thing to the next. Like it's got to be towards a common goal. I feel like a lot of people have a hard time figuring out that common goal because they don't know who they are deep down.
Yeah, that's really good. That's what I see a lot of guys do is they pivot as soon as there's like resistance, and it doesn't end up working out in their favor. And that's big too, that what you mentioned is like knowing who you are. And that was something that I needed to go deep on as well. Is like who's the man that I want to be when nobody else is looking, because I always struggled with insecurity and didn't have a lot of confidence and was always worried about like what the other people around me thought. Always wanted to be approved of, always wanted to be accepted, was afraid of being rejected and people thinking I looked stupid for things I said, down to even silly things like the things I wore. And it even happened like specifically end of college, started growing out my hair. So I had these bangs that like, got in my eyes. And so I'd wear a bandana around the house like when I got out of the shower to keep them out. And I remember I wanted to start wearing the bandana to the gym because it was actually functional, like it served a purpose. But I was so afraid to wear it to the gym because I was so afraid of being judged. And that was kind of my first decision to figure out, like, how do I want to show up? What's the authentic version of me? And like, who is that man? And let me make sure that I'm dedicated to that person every single day and show up as that guy no matter what. And so, yeah, I had to go through that process of creating what I call a vivid vision and getting super clear on where I want to be in each area of life and who I want to show up as a man, my character, my values. And then, like, once you have that North Star, sure, you don't have like, this is what I'll be doing in my career in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but you do have some direction. And if you keep heading in that direction, I think things slowly start to mold and shape into even more clarity that you're talking about. And it's when you pivot that you actually lose where you were heading in the first place. But if you don't know where you're heading, it makes it easier to just pivot and question, am I doing the right thing right now?
Was there a specific high point or low point in your life where you had more clarity as to who you were? Like for me, when I did my first bodybuilding show, like that was definitely a moment that I can pinpoint. But like, okay, I now recognize that, unrelenting work towards something results in this outcome. And that honestly kind of shaped my trajectory for where I wanted my career path to be taken, where I wanted, like who I wanted to work with. Like that was a pretty monumental moment for me. But were there any specific highs or lows that were primary catalysts for you?
Yeah, I think it was when I got to Amazon, because I was like, all right, this is going to be awesome. Like, I got Amazon on my resume. I can go do whatever I want in the tech space. Like, I'm a software engineer, data engineer at one of the best companies. And then I got there and I just realized I don't even want to do this. And I always didn't like the idea of reporting to somebody else. I'm the oldest of 6 kids, so kind of by nature, I had a bit of a leadership responsibility there. My parents definitely held me to it to set a good example for the younger kids. And then being around team sports, football specifically, just that camaraderie and brotherhood and opportunity to lead has always resonated with me. So I knew for a fact I didn't want to work for a boss, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. And I got to Amazon. I was like, this is not it. I'm not working for another company. And that's when I read the book Think and Grow Rich, when I told you I started reading all those books. And that's the book that changed, such a classic, but that's the book that by far changed my life the most, because, just heard Napoleon Hill talk about this idea of like desire. And if you truly desire, basically, the premise of the point in the book is like, if you truly desire it and you're intentional about that desire, you can get there. And so then I went and read this book called Vivid Vision by this guy named Cameron Herold. and it's a real short book about building the vision for your business.
That's a good one too. I've read that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. And also talks about building a vision for your personal life. So I sat down and I did that exercise in 2021: spiritual, physical, mental, career and finances, relationships and family, lifestyle. And I put it on paper. And that was the beginning of it for me, because once I had that, I felt like I could just reverse engineer it to daily steps that I need to work towards every single day, or daily steps I can take rather, that are going to help me move in that direction. And yeah, at the beginning of that time, like my career and skill set was in the intersection of tech and finance. And so I had thought about some things about like building some platforms for like a PE firm, or I even actually went through the process of, as I started to get more into health and fitness, trying to start a vegan fast food chain, because me and my buddy, we would always be out wanting to eat something late at night, but there would never be any good options. So I went through that whole process of putting together kind of a slide deck and talking with investors and talking about, if it could be possible. So I knew there was something, but I didn't know like I would end up coaching like I do now. But as I just continued to work on myself and like the other parts of the vision that I could day to day, then that started to become clear. And even in my career, like while I was in the tech space, I was always asking, like, how can I leverage this opportunity? Where is the opportunity in what I'm doing right now? How can I develop a skill set? How can I do something with this, rather than just like showing up, doing work, and getting a check?
Yeah, 100%, man. A little bit of a tangent, but are you still vegan?
I was never vegan. No way, brother.
Okay, good, good, good. I just had to make sure, man. I just got done crushing a bunch of steaks, so I'm glad you're on
Yeah,
the
no
same
way.
page.
Yeah, I know keto is your thing. So, I've done one show as well, which was a special season for me. I'd probably like to do one more. Um, I would maybe do classic, because I did men's physique. I'd have to put on a lot more size, but and I would probably still not have the size that you typically need for classic, but I'd like to do it just one time.
You
But
should,
yeah,
man.
I competed in 2023, and um, it's a special process just because of like how locked in you are on one thing in the tunnel vision. I know you've competed a lot more than that, but that was a special time, and helped me learn a lot as well.
Yeah, I feel like it's just it's like the epitome of sacrifice. Like you strip away all that is unnecessary, and then you have much more clarity as to what is necessary. And then it's just you have non-negotiables in life. Like you have to have non-negotiables if you want to step on that stage, looking the part, and bring in your best self. And then anything that distracts from that, you just discard. And you recognize really quickly what matters and what doesn't. And I feel like everybody would benefit from that in some form or fashion, for sure.
Yeah, completely. It's just, yeah, exactly like you said, setting the vision and then making things non-negotiable. And I think that's where a lot of guys stumble with the inconsistency in the discipline, is because they negotiate so much with their word. And I talk about it a lot, is like our word is life or death. And that's the thing, that we're either building self-belief or we're reinforcing self-doubt every single time we give ourselves a word. When we keep it, we build that self-belief and confidence, but every single time we break it, we're just reinforcing self-doubt and making things non-negotiable. It's like, this is the word I gave myself, I'm not going to negotiate on it. It teaches you a lot about like what you're capable of, but also it helps you build the discipline that's going to get you to where you want to be, but even more importantly, like actually stay there and maintain it.
Totally agree. So, what does your days consist of primarily now? You said you're doing mostly coaching.
Yeah, I'm doing online coaching. So what I do is I specifically work with men who feel like they're basically in that same place that I was, where they feel like they have no potential, or they have more potential, but they're just, struggling to find the discipline, the consistency, the motivation. Maybe they don't have a lot of vision. Maybe they're feeling far from God. They're struggling to find like purpose or fulfillment. And so specifically what I'm helping them do is get their body, mind in relationship with God right. So we're doing everything from physical training, nutrition, morning routines, building a way to actually get connected with God, figuring out a way to become more self and emotionally aware, and then essentially helping them create visions and figuring out like what are action steps they can take to move in the direction. Um, of where they want to be with their career. And a lot of those guys are also looking to prepare for a wife and become that man. So part of that is like removing the negative distractions, the vices, weed, alcohol, pornography is a huge one that a lot of guys especially have to deal with in private, and they deal with it in the dark. So creating that space to conquer that in community and accountability. That's what I'm doing day to day. So I'm either meeting with those guys one-on-one, building out programs, all of my, like, you could call it advertising and marketing. It's all Instagram and YouTube. So creating content and resources for those platforms. That's really where I'm at right now.
What do you feel like are the biggest common denominators in the clientele you work with? Because I look at my clients, and it's interesting, man. Like, I market myself as like a competition prep coach with keto. Most of my clients, they're all keto, but they're not all necessarily competing. But it's funny, man, when you're starting to work with somebody on nutrition or training or whatever, like when you're a coach, you wind up hearing about everything. Like, you become a therapist, an advocate, like you're just an accountability partner through all walks of life, because you can't really tease things out. Like, you can't say, okay, I've got my career and personal life over here, and then I got my health goals and nutrition over here. Like, it's all intermixed, interconnected. So when you're working with people, what seems to be like a common denominator for stumbling blocks that they're dealing with, so to speak? Is it primarily men, like specifically men that
Yeah,
you're working with?
only men. Yeah,
Only men. Okay.
only men. I mean, the biggest one, especially, I'm 30 years old. The guys I work with are typically 20s or mid 30s. And I mean, the vices is the biggest one, especially the pornography. Like that one takes down most men, and most men struggle with some form of lust. And I think that's just a result of the culture that we live in. You got guys growing up with this type of stuff at their fingertips, and it's not even like they're actually watching specific videos. It's like it's on the regular platforms that are supposed to be like for normal, for just anyone, like Instagram. You got bikini models all over the place, provocative content. It starts there, and then you got young, immature men who are just moving into puberty and developing their sexuality, and they're just feeding themselves this quick dopamine, and before you know it, like, they've conditioned themselves over so many years, and it's all around them. It's on the streets, girls wearing things that are provocative, and obviously it's on the man to control himself. But yeah, it's like it's almost like a trap. It's like all of a sudden they're in chains after years of conditioning. So that's the biggest one I've seen. And then the other one is like confidence. Guys just, they don't have confidence in themselves. They don't have confidence to show up the way they want in social situations, and speak, and just be real, and be authentic to who they are, and not fear judgment. And for me, where I see that starting the most is those guys typically, it goes back to the word, right? They haven't kept that word to themselves, and right, they're not confident in who they are in private. So how are you going to be that man when you're in public?
Yeah, it's a good point, man. I feel like vices, specifically the ones that you can, adhere or do in private, it's a slippery slope, because it's like at first glance, there's no recourse to it necessarily. There's no, responsibility that you have to hold when you do it. I mean, like, you're looking at porn on your phone, who's going to know any different other than yourself? But it's like, that's the thing. You know that you were not strong enough, and you know that you were too weak, or you didn't, hold yourself to that higher standard. And at the end of the day, like, we all know if we're living our best life and being our best self. And when we stumble and fall in a moment of weakness, like, it just gnaws at us. And then it becomes that much easier to do it a second time, a third time, or just a daily habit, habitual thing. And, I know people that have struggled with drugs, people that drink too much, and porn. It's like, it's not allowing you to reach your full potential. And kind of like they say, an idle mind's the devil's playground. Like, if you don't know who you are, you don't know what your calling is, then it's easy to justify those time wasters, because what's the big difference? If you're clocking out, you're not passionate about the work you're doing, how you fill your time at home, whose business is it anyway, so to speak? But it's like, no, when you're obsessed with the work you're doing, and you're filling your passion, filling your cup, it's like that outweighs the desire to do anything counter to that. Like, I used to look at porn like any other guy probably, but the moment I started the business and knew that this is what I was supposed to be doing, it became like I literally just quit cold turkey because it's like I can't justify spending time watching porn when I know I could be productive doing something that I'm passionate about that's
Mhm.
actually making a meaningful difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, why would I stop if I don't have a reason to stop? It comes down to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, how do people figure out what their passion is? Like that's kind of this cliche thing tossed around. Like, how do you know what your
Mm.
passion is? And I feel like a lot of it's just simply exposure. Like you have to almost expose yourself to everything to figure out what clicks in the beginning, and then once it clicks, then you can go full, speed ahead into it. But that doesn't happen overnight. Like it
Yeah.
takes some trial and error, it takes some figuring out. And then when it does click, it's not going to necessarily be easy. Like it's probably not going to be easy, but you have to just play the long game with it and give it the time it's due.
Yeah, and I think it first starts with like showing up for yourself and doing the things that you can do. And that's why I like to start in that place of physical, mental, in relationship with God, because it's like, what do you want out of those? Do you want to be 180 lean, 10% body fat? Are you cool with being, 15, 20%, 20 plus? Where do you want to be? What type of things do you want to do to stay active, to stay feeling good? It's like the body is almost like the car, and the mind is like the engine to it. And it's like, if we're not taking care of, or actually the engine to the car is more like our body, and the car is actually the mind. And it's like, if we're just filling the physical body with 75% gas, or poor fuel, then how we show up day to day, it's going to be limited. And when your body's not in a good place, your mind's not in a good place. So your focus, your energy, your creativity, your mood, all those type of things, you got constant racing thoughts. You can't, get to a place of stillness, and you're controlled by your emotions. So I think that's where it starts with, is like, getting right with yourself first, physically and mentally, and getting into a place where you do have real good awareness of the reason you feel certain ways and the reason you do that. And then from there, like, you have that foundation. What are you doing right now? What skill sets do you have? How can you leverage them? And starting to do the exploration from there, like, based on where you're coming from. But yeah,
Yeah. Plus, it's so tangible. I mean, like people, it takes decades to build like a dream physique, but I mean, you can feel and look notably better after like a month. You can feel better after like 2 days of eating the right foods, drinking the right amount of fluids, and actually getting a good night's sleep. So, like, it's a quick win for people. And then when you're trying to like dial in your health and nutrition, like you're able to do everything else much more efficiently, first of all. But you can't do that if you're just sloppy in every other area of your life. Like in order to get better in health and nutrition, like you need to get sleep, you need to eat the right food, you need to have the right routine. So it kind of just becomes guide rails, so to speak, that allow you to get a firm footing on everything else that's going on in your world.
yeah, it translates. Like, you can't be disciplined and consistent in the gym, and feel like you're not going to be able to be disciplined and consistent in your career. Like, that's going to start to translate into what you're doing with your career, because all those small habits that you had to build to get right in the gym, to get your body in a good place, you need those habits as well as you advance your career. And I have guys who come in like they want to, meet their wife and be the guy for her. But it's like, you're going to have to do a lot of things that you don't want to do when you're married and when you have a wife, and you're going to have to show up even when you don't want to, and still be consistent. And if you can't do that with yourself, you can't end up doing it with another person. So yeah, that's a special thing about physical fitness.
You've referenced being in a good relationship with God several times. Like, were you raised in a religious household?
I grew up, you could call it a Catholic household, but my mom was Protestant, dad was Catholic. We grew up in Catholic school our whole life through high school, and then we went to Catholic school. We went to church, Catholic church, and then uh, college, I just kind of lived in the world. Like, I always believed in God. I went to church here and there, but just was not like living any way of godly life, and had a relationship that ended up ending after 4 years at the end of college. And that's kind of when I started looking at myself and being like, something needs to change. And that's when I started seeking out God on my own. And yeah, I got to this place where I was truly curious, like, is God actually real? And even the verse that says, like, seek and find, knock, and the door will be open. Like, there's first a call and a command to us to show up, and like, we have to seek, we have to knock before the result of the door being open, before the finding happens. So I started doing simply that, like actually trying to build a true relationship with God, like seeking Him in prayer, trying to understand His nature by diving into the Word. And over a period of 3-4 years, went actually really deep in my relationship with God. And, a lot of the ways that I used to live, I stepped away from, to like every decision I make is essentially being led by where I feel like God's calling me to, from my relationship with my wife, my business, all that type of stuff. So yeah, I'm not Catholic at this point, but I'm just Christian. Believe Jesus is Lord, and that's the God that I've built a relationship with. Radically impacted my life more than anything. That's why my coaching is specifically with God at the center of it, because it used to be just fitness and nutrition, and felt like God was like, this is I'm the thing that's changed your life the most. How are you going to only talk about fitness and nutrition? So yeah, things have shifted over the past year and a half. But that's where I'm at now.
And in all that journey, reading the Word, seeking Him out, like there probably wasn't like a moment in time where it was like an aha moment. It was just like the constant, continual effort of putting in the work just brought you more and more clarity and closer to God, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, exactly. There was a process of slow obedience with me for a long time, like years. So I would do a lot of things, but then I would choose to do things my way in a lot of places. Like I would still get blackout drunk. I smoked weed for a while. I would use edible gummies. And the biggest one for me, I was like, I'm never gonna wait till I get married to, I'm not never gonna stop having sex until I get married. And that was the last one to go for me, which was like physical relationships. And once I made that decision, I ended up leaving a relationship with a girl who didn't have a relationship with God, because I felt convicted to stop being physical, and we just weren't aligned. So mutually, the best thing was just to go different ways. But that was a painful one for me, because it was like leaving behind a former part of my identity. I had let go of the other things, but that was the last thing that I was willing to let go of. And that was also what feels like the heaviest and the biggest step of boldness that I took in my faith and in my obedience. And when I saw God deliver and be faithful on His promise in that, I was like, God is who He says He is. Every promise He gives, He's always faithful. And it may not be like the answer that we're looking for comes in week one. It may take months and years, but that kind of just shifted my view of obedience. And there's a story about Abraham, who goes to, basically, God tells him, go sacrifice your own son. And he's like about to sacrifice his own son. And then God's like, I don't want you to do it, but commends him for his faithfulness. And so I kind of adapted this mindset, like, can I have that high level of faith and obedience like Abraham, and just move swiftly and actually go the first time rather than the 10th time God calls me? Because yeah, I'm 30 now, and I'm very blessed, and my life is in a great place. But if I had, truly surrendered and started being obedient and followed God from, an earlier age, and like gone all in with God, I know my life would be at a better place, or at a different place. And I mean, God's patient, and that's a beautiful thing. But yeah, being obedient, going all in with God, like it's been the best thing I've ever done.
There's a lot to be said for like just simply surrendering that, because I'm super guilty of just always putting it on myself, like put the weight on my shoulders, figure it out. It's like I'll do it all, I'll take it on. But and I've done that with multiple preps, and like they've always been miserable. But this last prep that I went through, it's like, okay, I'm just going to surrender. And that was like the most tranquil moment in my life. and the outcome was far superior to anything that I brought to the table previously. And it's like it's very hard to let go and surrender, but then when you do, it's like you're not doing it alone anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and even from a worldly perspective, it's like when we want to control the outcome, we're focused on the destination and the end result. But where we are right now, we can't actually change that. It's impossible. It's out of our reach. It's in the future. The only thing that we can do is show up and control this moment. So, and actually, the desire to like control the outcome in the future and the destination and the result, the focus and the pressure that trying to control it puts on you in this current moment, that distracts you. And that's probably part of why like you saw the better results, because that's just distracting you from like doing everything you can right now and like being in that place of peace. And I'm sure you had like less stress on your physical body and other things. But yeah, it's almost like us wanting to control it is actually hindering our ability to show up and be the best we can for wherever it is we're heading right now in this moment. And if we can just control showing up right now, that's actually going to lead to the better outcome. But
Yeah,
obviously, if God's involved in that surrender as well, it's 10 times more powerful.
completely agree. What is the biggest struggle in your life right now? Like what is the biggest hardship or roadblock you're dealing with at the moment?
Yeah. For a while, it was in January. I felt like God basically made it clear to me that He didn't want me focusing on doing anything to like bring in new clients or bring in money, and just focus on like my messaging, my content, and my back end resources for my guys. So over the past 6, 7, 8 months, I have really basically stepped away from doing any type of like outbound marketing and advertising, and just focused on like honing my message and making sure it's speaking exactly to the guys that I feel like I'm best positioned to serve, which was ultimately who I used to be. And also doing that with God at the center. And it's taken a lot of reps. I've gone through some dry seasons in terms of the business, and yeah, I've that's a place that I've always had success. Like, got out of school, was making 75 grand, and then made 100 grand pretty quick. And then when I went self-employed in the tech space, I was making over 250 grand a year at like 24, and did that for a couple years. And even when I launched my business coaching part-time, I still did 100K my first year, which was actually last year. And in this year of 2025 is my first year full time with the business. And so it felt like money was never something that has been scarce for me. And it's always something that I've controlled the outcome. So I feel like this has been an opportunity for God to just refine me and like help me truly fully depend on Him. Because when I first felt like I got that word, I expected God to show me like what I should be doing instead to make money within like 7 days. I went into like a 5.5 day fast, and I was like expecting to get an answer. And it was like, I may not have that answer. I don't have that answer for you by the end of this fast. Just like keep doing the things that I'm showing you to do, and the answer will come. And so even like stepping away from making money for 5, 7 days was hard for me. And now I'm in a place where like I've done it for months, and had moments where, and when I haven't made a lot of money and been okay with that. But also the beautiful thing in that season is like through it, it's helped me do what I'm supposed to be doing right now, better and with more just I guess presence and fullness, and like do it to the best of its capacity. But then it's also God's like given me wisdom to see like what's being prepared in the fruit that's being prepared of like the season of planting and labor right now. And it may not be like this massive harvest right now, but what I see what's being prepared, and yeah, it's going to be something that I can't even like couldn't have even imagined, and it's heading and trending in that direction. So yeah, that was hard for me to step away from like, all right, I'm not going to make any money.
Yeah, being scarce on the finances is never easy, especially when the bills keep coming regardless. Um, do you feel like despite that, you have a greater sense of fulfillment and overall peace right now in this chapter?
Yeah, the peace definitely, and where I would have been anxious about like needing to close the next sale to pay my bills, I'm in a place of trust and peace with it now. And I'm also just feeling like the fulfillment that I'm experiencing wouldn't have come if my focus was elsewhere, because what I've been able to build out, especially for my guys, like my program, I call it the Kingdom Man. I was able to build out like a pretty legit and intensive curriculum for these guys that's just taking my program to a next level, and my messaging is exactly where it needs to be. So originally it was like I was helping guys with fitness and nutrition, and then guys would come with to me, they wanted like to find purpose and vision and change their career, but it was a little bit all over the place. And now like all of my leads are inbound and they're like, I need to drop vices. I want to prepare for a wife. I want to get closer to God. I want to find potential and purpose in my career. I want to get dialed with my body and my mind. I want to step into my full God-given potential, like every single guy. And they're all coming to me. So my message is speaking to them. And then, what I built on the back end, it's like when they come in and we get on calls, it's a no-brainer for them because it's just so much more than they're finding anywhere else. So yeah, that's super fulfilling, and it's really cool to start to see that community building and gaining momentum, and just like
Yeah.
really good dudes coming in and who are seeing like incredible results. I had a guy who came in a couple weeks ago, and it was like narcotics, pills, weed, cocaine, and first week got sober on all of them, and he's been sober since, and he's put on like he the ideal physique I like to build on, which is just like super lean string bean dude, has no fat on him, but he's just like stacked 10 pounds of muscle already and completely sober, and he's hyped up. And there's nothing more than working with guys who are hyped up about their process, because it makes it so much more fulfilling for you as a coach to have somebody who's excited about what they're doing for themselves.
It is pretty fulfilling when you work with people and you just like see their eyes light up with excitement and hope that they never used to have. Like, and for you to be a catalyst in that, like it's like that's why we coach, like that's the best thing in the world, like being able to help steer people, like empower them, like give them the tools and resources they need, but then let them do the work and then believe in themselves enough to see it through. Like, it's just the coolest thing ever, man. Like, I can't think of anything more worthwhile with our time than to like help empower other people. Like that's the best.
Yeah, it's powerful, and I feel like this season of stepping away from finances has helped me to do that as well, because my entire career, like the focus was on making money, and I liked what I did a little bit, but like not that much. It was like, let me figure out the way to make the most money. And so now this forced me to like really focus on impact. Like, how can I create literally the most value possible and over deliver for these guys the most I can? And it's, we all like to say like, we're invested in serving and having impact, and like that's our main motivation, but a lot of the time it's actually not. And I think because the money was such a driver for me for a long time, it's almost like helped me position my heart where, like, all right, how can I truly help these guys? And I've had guys come on that are like far different from me, which is great, but like I've had guys come on who like have ADHD, or like that's another thing that's been challenging. It's like learning how to coach other guys who need a different coaching style than I would use to coach myself. So the
Hmm.
coaching style that resonates for me when I look to guys who inspire me, it's usually just like, tell me how it is. Like, be upfront with me, be blunt. I can take it. Like, I'm not gonna be offended. Tell me how it is. Tell me where I'm wrong, how I can be better. And the intensity that comes with that from a lot of guys who are blunt is, that's just always resonated with me. That's how I like it. But I've realized after calling a couple guys out like second, third, fourth time in a row, and they still don't respond to it, it's like me not beating them up, but like telling them how it is. That's not going to work for everybody. So it's even just molded me as a human and helped me become like more sensitive, more sympathetic towards people because I didn't have a lot of that towards myself and like my personal development. It's like you kind of know it's like that bodybuilder mentality. It's like there's no negotiation. You got to do what you got to do. Macros are what they are.
Hmm.
Training is what it is. Cardio is what it is. Like, let's go. And so that's how I've been with pretty much everything in my life. And a lot of guys, that just doesn't work for them. And my ideal guys, they can take it that way. But yeah, a lot of guys that doesn't work for them.
Well, it keeps you humble. Like interact with other people. It I don't know. For me, like same thing. I get the same thing with podcasting. Like I bring people on from different walks of life, different experiences, different memories, different trajectories, and it's like it just brings you out of your own little comfort zone bubble that you are familiar with, and you recognize that there's so much diversity out there, and what works well for some may be different for someone else, and you just have to be empathetic, sympathetic, and you know, pliable to some extent.
Yeah.
Totally, man. And you are married, right? You got married recently, didn't you?
Yeah, I got married in May.
Congratulations on that, man. How's that going for you?
It's great actually, but it's the most like sanctifying, maturing process that I've ever experienced. I've never felt more selfish in my life. It just like exposes all your selfishness, and it forces you to grow if you're open to that. But yeah, I lived almost a bachelor lifestyle without like the women's side of things for a long time. Like when I left Boston, I was in San Diego, and then I split time between San Diego and Florida for a couple of years, moved to Miami for a couple of years, spent some time abroad, spent a month in Hawaii, and it's like for 5 years it's been I'm wherever, whenever, doing whatever I want. And like now we're settled down in her hometown, which is in Philadelphia, and we're living in one place, and I'm driving 30 minutes to the gym. I haven't driven like 10 minutes to the gym, 10 minutes anywhere in like the past 5 years. So I'm sitting in traffic, driving 30 minutes just so I can go to a decent gym. And yeah, it's just like exposing a lot of um, some of my selfish ways and in some of the things that cause me to like be impatient or quick to anger. And also, yeah, I've had to become a lot more sensitive too because, obviously can't talk to her like I would talk to one of the guys. So, it's been a beautiful thing, but it matures me every single day.
Yeah, it is interesting, man. Like when you're your own man and you're only answering to yourself,
Yeah.
you can literally do whatever you want to do. And if you're a decent husband, you can't view life through that lens anymore. It's like you got to be there as a rock and support other people, your wife. And you have kids, and it takes that to a whole nother level. Like we just had our second son about 3 months ago now. And like, talk about, a knock to the reality of appreciate it. It's like, you definitely can't be selfish when you've got kids
Yep.
because, I mean, with your wife, it's like she's her own person, you're your own person, you're both ideally self-sufficient, and you join forces to amplify the value you can add and the momentum you can make. But when you have kids, it's like they're not self-sufficient. So you have to support somebody entirely. And yeah, you can't be selfish in that regard.
That's exactly the wake up call I felt like when we got here to Philadelphia because we got married in May. We spent about a month up in Massachusetts because I had birthdays and like milestone birthdays, grandfather's 90th with my family. So we spent about a month there. And then we went out to Hawaii for 2.5 weeks. And then we stayed in Bali in Indonesia for like two months. And we were planning to stay out there longer, like even 6, 12 months. And was just planning to like sit out there, live pretty affordable lifestyle, build the business, and felt like we were being called to come home to Philadelphia. And it's been a brutal awakening for me just being here and away from the ocean for the first time. I've been spoiled with that, not only in my adult life, but also as a kid. I grew up near the water. So it's been really hard, but I felt like God was telling me like that chapter is over, and like that's how I've loved living. I've never been much of a social guy. I'm not like completely introverted. I have a little social battery, but like it gets filled up quick. I'm not like going out to do things with people multiple times a week, maybe like once in a while, every other week or something like that, if that. And so, yeah, all that to say, I was very happy and content just doing my thing. And it was like, this is never going to work if you're going to have kids and be a good father in a family like that. That way of living is over. So you got to get used to it now. And I'm preparing you by being here because it has been hard to me. And like when things don't go my way, um, I do get frustrated quickly and like I have a short temper with some things. So it's helping me work through that instead of like having that temper when kids come around or getting
Mhm.
frustrated when I got to sit in traffic because it's inconveniencing me. It's like you're going to have to learn to move into a position of being inconvenienced to be a good father.
What does she do for work? Is she doing like, client coaching stuff as well?
Yeah, she's a writer, so she has like a women's blog that's faith-based that's her main focus right now is just building that blog. And I think she'll probably continue to do that like whenever we decide to have kids, which will probably end up being sooner than later. But we thought about her going back to doing some type of work like small jobs or like serving because she used to serve at a restaurant around here or like spending time doing nannying or something like that. But it's just the only intention would be like to pay bills and bring in money, and it just kind of pulls her out of her purpose. I know that's like not what she's going to be doing long term. Jobs to be a mother and then to kind of also help nurture these women who want to do things from a faith perspective, don't want to do things a cultural way, actually want to raise traditional healthy families. And she's doing that really well through her blog. So yeah, we're just focusing on building that right now.
That's good, man. I feel like the fact that both of y'all's things are pretty well aligned is key. I talked to some people whose significant other spouse is doing something totally counter to what they're working on, and I can't imagine that. Like it kind of feels that way with my wife and I right now, but it's not. It's just like she's capitalizing on her strong suits with the kiddos, raising them. I'm building the business, but we have the same goals and trajectories, which is good. But like people that have polar opposites, I mean, that's probably why people get divorced. I
Yeah.
mean, that's an alarming statistic right there, man. It's like more than 50% of marriages end in divorce. More than 50% of the U.S. population is obese. It's like those are two statistics that we got to reverse right there.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I feel like we've felt a calling too to be an example of what it looks like to raise like a family that's centered in Christ and that is traditional and show people that this is a good thing. And like you can do it young because people are getting married older and all this type of stuff. And we ended up we got married after 5 months of meeting. We waited till marriage. First time either of us have waited in a relationship before. And yeah, even with the kids, like we wanted for our own selfish reasons to wait to like build the business and get to a good place where we're happy financially and like we've stacked the amount of cash we want. And it's like you're never going to get there. And also part of your purpose is raising kids and raising a godly family. So we felt that too. And I think it is like the alignment on the beliefs and the values more so than anything that is going to make it work in the long run rather than people they don't even stand for the same things. And that was kind of something that I tried to do that doesn't work out is like, if you're passionate and on fire for God and want to live for God, then if you're doing that and your partner is not as interested, it's always going to pull you guys apart. You're just going to have different interests, conflicting interests. So yeah, I think if like the mindset and the beliefs are there, what you're doing in your day to day becomes less important.
100%, man. How'd y'all meet in the first place?
We actually met. So I went out to Thailand, and it was actually around this time I went out to Thailand, October 18th of last year, and I was out there for 2 months. And that was when I started coaching in summer of 23. Was doing like fitness, nutrition, talking to busy professionals because I had surprisingly for online coaches I had actually done that and just wasn't gaining any traction. Found myself in a place of a lot of frustration in summer of 2024. And that's where I kind of felt like I was pursuing God and he opened it up to me like, I've had the most transformation in your life. Like you should be giving me the glory and talking more about me. And I was almost afraid to talk about God because I thought it would like push people away. And so what I ended up doing was I started a new Instagram account in August of 24. And once again, the only focus, yeah, I started in August of 24. I left my day job in October of 24, right when I went out to Thailand. And my only focus was on the message. Let God be the head and everything else falls underneath: the mindset, the physical, the lifestyle. And so while I was out there those 2 months, my account grew from, in August, 0 followers to around 50,000 within 100 days. And I had a lot of traction at that point while I was out there. And I noticed she was like liking a lot of my stuff. At that point, I had like just a lot of new people coming in, but she always liked my stuff that was related to God, like never my meathead stuff. I'd be in the gym, shirt off, lifting, and something about it resonated with me. And then or yeah, something about that stood out to me. And then I saw, I was just looking at her profile, thought she's a beautiful girl, but there wasn't anything about God. So I just stayed where I was. And then for some reason, something brought me back a couple days later, and I noticed something that she had posted about God. I just reached out. We had a conversation, and had a couple FaceTimes, and just started, actually, we went really deep over FaceTime unexpectedly in the month and a half that we talked while I was out there. And so I came back to the US, and met her for the first time, like in person. That was on New Year's, actually, here in Philly. And we pretty much knew before we met in person, like it was a done deal. So um, yeah,
That's cool, man.
yeah. Wasn't looking for it at all, and that was kind of actually part of like what helped me move into a position where it was brought to me. But yeah, I wanted a wife for so bad for so long that I tried to force relationships, and I would find myself stressed and anxious because I didn't have it, and like always looking to fill that void. And it's like you're never going to find something if you're forcing it. So once I had kind of surrendered that relationship and finding my wife and knowing that God would bring her in the right time, and really what I needed to do is just focus on preparing myself. That's when she showed up.
It's cool, man. It's
Yeah.
super cool. Well, I'll definitely be following along, man. I'm excited about what the content you've been putting out, what everything looks like. So, the course and curriculum that you just built out, is that all done in public facing now?
Yeah, I don't like sell it as a separate course. What I really like to do is I use it in tandem with my one-on-one coaching. So, like, guys will have certain modules, certain assignments to go through as we progress through our time together, which ends up being 6 months. And then if guys want to go longer, we go longer, but we start with 6 months. And then the course curriculum is built out to go side by side with what we do in our time one-on-one. And when guys come in, like the best deal, the way I can give them the most value is us working together one on one. If for some reason like that's not going to work for them, then I can put them through just the course. But I really haven't had any guys who come in just for the course. We always figure out a way to do it one on one.
That's cool, man. Where do people go to find out more about that and just dive deeper into your world?
Yeah, totally. The best place to find me is on Instagram. So if you go to Instagram, my handle is Jack P. Landry. And what I'm happy to do with you guys is actually what I call a strategy session, typically something I do only with my elite one-on-one clients right when they come on. What we'll do is we'll sit down, we'll look at exactly where you are, where you want to be, and we'll talk through all of the things that are holding you back from stepping into that full God-given potential, that man you actually know you're capable of becoming. And we'll sit down like an hour, 60 minutes, do it completely free, just go through that, and I'll give you a strategy, a plan that you can actually start executing on coming out of that call. So yeah, if you guys want to do that completely free, you can message me on Instagram. It's Jack P. Landry, and send me over the word keto just so I know where you're coming from Robert. That'd be awesome.
Awesome, man. So they just hit you up in the DMs then, huh?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Sweet. Awesome, Jack. Well, I love what you're doing, brother. You're fighting the good fight. I mean, anything that we can do to make better relationships, grow closer to God, have a good, solid, marriage, and just empower people to be their best self, man. That's where it's at. So keep fighting the good fight, brother.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate you too. Keep doing the same thing.
100%, man. Take care. If you ever need anything from me, just holler, brother.
Will do, brother. I appreciate you.
Likewise.